So we know that although biosimilars may be available, they're not always adopted as quickly as you might expect, given the opportunities in terms of cost savings that they represent. So what I was interested in looking at was the potential barriers to biosimilar adoption. So there may be national barriers in terms of how treatments are reimbursed that prevent biosimilars from being adopted, or indeed that prevent biosimilars from being launched into the market in the first place. So we see an example in the US where perhaps many biosimilars are licensed but not actually launched. And if the biosimilar is not launched, you can't use it. There are also local barriers. So you might have clinicians who are skeptical about biosimilars or would benefit from some education about how they are developed and tested, because the clinical trials are often quite different from clinical trials for novel anti-cancer medicines, for example. There may be patient preferences to maintain on a reference product, so there may be patient education and information needs. And then there may be actually pathway barriers, so practices that have evolved over time of using a reference product that you need to replicate with confidence with a biosimilar to prevent any adverse effect on patient experience or perhaps your day unit capacity. So an example could be extended stability data that's available for a reference product that you would need replicated for a biosimilar, or perhaps the safety of a rapid infusion schedule that is common practice for the reference product and you might want to adopt for the biosimilar. I see generating real-world data to be a complement to clinical trials. Obviously, we're not going to replace clinical trials yet, and I don't want to overestimate the scientific value, but it has provided locally confidence to our clinicians that we're not disadvantaging patients by using a biosimilar where we previously used a reference product. So fortunately, as pharmacists, we're in quite a good position to gather real-world data because we typically have access to prescribing systems and to dispensing systems. So we can track at a patient-by-patient, episode-by-episode level what drug each patient has received at which time. So I think we're ideally placed as pharmacists to generate this kind of data. I feel there are some barriers in the US to adoption, perhaps in how providers are reimbursed for providing treatment. And I know there's a lot of kind of wrangling between pharmaceutical companies around patent issues, which discourages biosimilars from launching.